welcome to Cataclysm Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.cataclysm.com. My name is Jason JROCK Houston, and it's my pleasure to be speaking with, Aeraco? Is that how you pronounce the name of the band?
Aeraco.
Aeraco. So I'm speaking with Aeraco drummer Bryan Hughey today, and I understand you're a newest member of a band, Bryan. So let's start off the interview talking about how did you get the gig? Did you have to audition? Did you get called for it, or?
Well, a little bit of both. So I guess this kind of goes back a few years where I'm in a couple other bands, and the singer and I from this other band I'm in went to go see Aeraco live back in 2019, and we wanted to meet them, and my singer, his name's Steve-O, he already knew them, and so I got to meet some of the band and everything, and eventually this culminated in that band with my singer opening up for Aeraco.
Oh, wow.
In 2019 at the Home Bar in Arlington Heights, Illinois. So that was really cool, and that's I got to know the band even a little more, and so I think what eventually ended with them giving me a call was a combination of them just letting go of their former drummer for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Just didn't work out. But at the time, the bass player, Bruce, he was recording, mixing, and helping to master the Nostradamus EP. Now, Nostradamus is the other band I have with my singer Sivo.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
And so yeah, I'm in several bands and several groups, so I keep pretty busy. But I guess it seemed like they were impressed with the drumming work I had done with that band, which is a little more metal. It's a little more. It's not. I would say it's definitely not as radio friendly. It's a little more on the thrash side. Sometimes more punk. Sometimes more this and that.
Okay. Wow.
And so yeah, they were. Seemed like they were impressed and gave me a call and said, "Hey, Mikey, the leader, the singer, gave me a call at about 10:30 at night and said, hey, you know who this is?" And I said, "That sounds like Mike from Aeraco." And he said, "Yep, we're interested in having you come out and jam with us. What do you think?" And so I came out and jammed, and it seemed to go pretty well. We had a few jam sessions. They said they were they had a few other drummers sort of on the list still to call.
Okay.
But I guess I made the cut.
You made the cut, yeah, no doubt. So Mike, how would you describe the overall sound of Aeraco? Would you say it's kind of friendly, like you said, radio friendly, kind of hard rock?
Yeah, it's a lot of their songs, I would say, they're comprised of hard rock radio hits.
Okay.
That's quite a number of them.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And I think that's super cool because that's something, funny enough, even though I'm a hard rock metal drummer and I do a lot of prog rock and stuff like that, I've never been in a group that tried to do that. I've always been in groups that were like, let's just kind of play whatever we want. And
yeah.
Whether there was sort of a vision in mind, but something I really like about this band is there's a very clear vision in mind, whether Matt or Mike, the guitar players, or Bruce have a vision for a song or whatever it is. The idea is let's create something that anybody could listen to within the vein of hard rock and have it be heard on a station. Like, we're from Illinois, so the hard rock station around here is Will Rock. So
wow.
we kind of set out to create something, at least with True North, was let's make something that would totally be played over and over again on something like Will Rock. Let's still have something new and fresh to it. So yeah.
That's kind of interesting because, you can look at all kinds of music that way. I mean, a good example is I recently did a show looking back on the fact that this year marks the 50th anniversary of Deep Purple's album Machine Head. And 50 years later, people are saying, like, when Deep Purple was first coming out in the early 60s, they were looked upon much more as a pop band, even a progressive rock band. And it wouldn't be really till Machine Head around 1972 when they put that album out that they started to get more of a hard rock, kind of even metal kind of edge to their sound. And people are saying, if you go back and you look at songs like Highway Star or Speed King, people are saying now that that's probably can be considered like one of the first maybe thrash metal tunes. But people, like, again, when you think Deep Purple, you don't think of speed metal, but going back to like Highway Star, it has elements of that.
Yeah, and so that's people might think that of Aeraco eventually, where there are some songs where it's this was kind of maybe their hard rock phase, or this was their whatever phase.
Pop phase,
but we're trying to do, and this is something that I like to do, is I always like to take a different approach and do something a little bit different. And so not only with True North is there, because we're starting off, I guess you could say a little more accessible with the things that we've been working on with me. We also have a couple other tunes that we're working up that are not that.
Okay.
One of them is a little more on the metal side. It's a little faster, heavier, a little more edge to it. And then there's one it's even on the softer side. So we're trying to
I dig stuff like that.
The horizons of the band.
I dig stuff like, even look at a band like, there's another good example of this, Queen. I mean, they're probably much thought more of as a hard rock or even a pop band. But you look at something like, Stone Cold Crazy, that's probably as metal as Queen ever got, but at the same time, then they got a radio-friendly song like, Bohemian Rhapsody or Somebody to Love.
Right, yeah. Well, funny you should say about Stone Cold Crazy, like one of the prog rock band I'm in, we open our set with a cover of Stone Cold Crazy. And that's something I didn't know. I hadn't heard that album Sheer Heart Attack till I was already well into being a drummer, and I had no idea Queen could be like that. So I think that'd be cool if people could discover that about even Aeraco, where they're like, there's the album Baptized by Fire, where it's a pretty hard rock, guitar-driven album. And so fans of Aeraco, hopefully this broadens the spectrum of
Aeraco,
and gives them some deeper cuts, some things you might hear on like a side B record on a band like Deep Purple, but we're going to bring them to the A side type of thing.
Yeah. I mean, I'll give you
and give those songs some showcase.
I'll be honest with you. Until your publicist sent me the press release on the band, never heard of you guys, and I'm kind of like, wow, how have I never heard of these guys? But I guess it is possible. Great little discovery, as far as I'm concerned. But I went on your Facebook page, for example, and it's kind of interesting. You're telling me, we kind of a radio-friendly kind of hard rock band, and you listen to True North, and you kind of get that vibe. But then, like, you have like Baptism of Fire. You see the imagery that's on the website, and you would think just by kind of looking at the imagery, they must be kind of a metal band. But like you're saying, you could kind of be a little bit of everything, and I think that's what's cool about a band like this. There's no set box. I mean, early on, for example, even in Metallica's career, people thought, they're a metal band, and then of course they got all that backlash when the Black Album came. Oh my God, Metallica, they cut their hair, they've gone pop. But again, I dig that you guys don't have any kind of set box or any set rules like, we will never do a power ballad, or we never do a metal tune. I mean, I dig that you just kind of go in and whatever comes out, comes out.
Yeah, that's, I mean, at the end of the day, whatever it is we're trying to create, and certainly, I think I can sort of speak for Mike in this regard, is we do sort of have that approach of we play whatever we want, but there is a rather elaborate refinement process to find out whatever that thing is.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, that makes sense.
And for me personally, that it was it's this band, because I've been in a number of bands throughout my time as a drummer so far, and this band was certainly the most, I guess you could say,
versatile.
Yes and no. I was going to say the most tedious with their refinement of the song.
Okay.
Yeah, which I kind of do like. I guess you could say I wasn't given too much freedom.
Okay.
Which I sort of like in a way, because sometimes constrictions as an artist, I don't know. Do you play an instrument or
No, I'm just
or anything?
I'm just a music lover. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, sometimes, and this can be true with any form of art, is sometimes when there are set parameters.
Yeah.
It kind of forces you to be a little more creative, because rather than just having every single color in the palette available, it's like, all right, let's see how creative you can be with this specific set of colors. And so it's not like some bands where that color palette and those parameters are the same for every single song. It's a little different for every song, but it essentially, by creating a box, I'm almost able to think outside. It gives me a box to think outside of.
That's interesting.
Rather than just having no box, I like there to be a box to think outside of. Does that make sense?
So Bryan, you said you knew the band from playing the same local scene as these guys, and that's how you guys initially hooked up. But were you really into the band as far as like when it came to you getting the audition and everything? I mean, how well did you know the tunes, or did you have to kind of crack down before you finally went down for the audition and really learned the tunes?
Well, I didn't. I knew a couple of them personally. We had just a couple of jam sessions at a party before, for one of the guitar players' parties, and but I hadn't really heard of them before the show that my friend Steve and I had gone to, and I'd seen them really only a couple of times, where I saw them live. The one time in 2018, and then when we opened for them in 2019.
Wow.
And I was sort of blindsided when I got the call, like, like, hey, would you like to come jam with us? And I'm like, all those neurons firing my brain, like, do I have time for this? I would like to play with him. That would be really sweet. Okay. So as he's asking me questions about myself, I'm actually thinking, like, okay, how do I move my schedule around to accommodate for this? And so and for a while I'd been really busy, but it happened to be the right gig at the right time, and now I'm a part of it. And it really happened to work out.
How confident were you during the audition? Like, did you think it was going good, or were you really surprised when you got the call?
Well, I was surprised I was certainly surprised they called me, because I didn't think I was on the short list. But it wasn't that difficult to prepare musically for the gig. I just, what I like to do when I'm learning, essentially, a cover song, because their originals are covers from my perspective. I like to just sit down and listen to them, and I transcribe and make drum charts for all the tunes. And they weren't too terribly difficult. I'm used to playing stuff like Yes and King Crimson and Dream Theater.
Wow.
So radio friendly, hard rock
isn't that hard?
is totally right up my alley. So it's right in the pocket for me.
And so
the hard part really was, being that Aeraco, I'd never been in a band that was signed to a label before, management, record or otherwise, and so I was kind of like, these guys, they're bona fide professionals. I need to embody that too. I've been in bands that have released demos and things like that, but
not on this level.
Nothing quite to the scale that Aeraco had done. So it was not really a musical shock. It was more of a professionalism shock. I kind of had to adjust my tie, you know what I mean, and sort of stand upright a little bit more, and mind my P's and Q's. Until I got to know them, and now I don't mind them. But
And on that level, like, I imagine you got to sign contracts to be part of a band and that, and probably being part, signed to a label, got all these rules that, hey, hey, buddy, you're part of this professional band, be careful what you do outside, because, people will hear about it.
Exactly. And so that's actually next on the list of things to do, now that we've released the single, is hopefully signing me on as an official Dark Star Records artist. I think that'd be really cool.
And I got to tell you, Dark Star Records is a great little label to be on, because, probably the one of my favorite albums that's come out this year is a solo album from former Black Sabbath singer Tony Martin. I think it's his best-selling album since he's been out of Black Sabbath, which is a number of years now. But he's finally getting some love, because he even when he was in Black Sabbath, because he wasn't an original member, very underrated. But I think Dark Star Records did a great job of promoting his album and a lot of other albums on the label.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know he released one. I'll have to check that out.
That's cool. In fact, I should tell you, Bryan.
I hadn't heard it. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I was just gonna say. I don't know if you're aware. The guitar player that plays with Tony Martin and another band, I think it's called Vante, Scott McKellen. He was commenting today when I was announcing that I was going to be interviewing you. That on my page, he's saying, "Oh yeah, those guys, they're a super cool band and really nice guys." So people are really taking notice of this band.
Sweet, that's good news. Yeah, I mean, I hope we can keep pleasing, rock and metal fans out there nationwide, worldwide, maybe. Yeah. We'll see. I know the YouTube video on the Dark Star YouTube channel has gotten a number of views already, so it seems like people are digging it, and I'm glad, because that brings me fulfillment as an artist when somebody's moved by the art that I created and they like to share it and enjoy it and everything. And
I urge people to go on and find the band online, because Facebook and YouTube, because and just prepping for this interview that we're doing now, I went on the YouTube channel and there's a lot of great videos from the band and some cover songs. Now I was curious, when you joined the band and officially became a member and all that, like, did the other guys in the band, did they say, okay, Bryan, when it comes to playing older material, we want you to play exactly how the old drummer did, or are you allowed to kind of put your swing on the tunes?
Well, it starts like that. It started as, okay, we're used to our former drummer playing it this way. We're going to ask you at this point in time to do it the way he did it, because that's what we're used to. That's what the fans are used to. Yeah. And then after a few months of learning the tunes and jamming with them, I've changed a few things. Nothing too drastic, egregious. Yeah. Maybe I might change a fill here and there, or add a little flair to a thing or two, or something like that. I guess I have a problem with playing too many notes sometimes. Okay, yeah. So the drum tracks aren't too overly, how would you say it? Aggressive, I guess. They're not too layered, too heavily orchestrated. Yeah. They're really solid in the pocket drum tracks. So sometimes I like to just throw in a little here and there, just maybe for my own benefit. I like to keep them on their toes too. and how tight do you think you and the bass player are as a rhythm section? I'd say we're pretty tight. Bruce is super solid. So maybe I should have, now that you mention it, maybe him and I should just jam and see what we come up with. Well, I mean, it's always a major part of any band or recording. I mean, I know the drums are usually like the first thing correct me if I'm wrong, is that the drums are almost the first thing you almost record, or what was the process for you guys? Well, that's the way that we did it for True North, that's correct, and that's the way most of the bands I've been in do it. Yeah. I think for Baptized by Fire, I think they actually recorded one of the guitars first. Interesting. I could be wrong. Yeah. This was I guess you could say a more traditional, even though we're going about doing things in the band in a new way. I guess a new way for them was recording the drums first. Interesting. Wow. Because I like to learn things off of sheet music and memorize them note for note. Wow. I went to music school and everything, and it's easier for me to do that rather than try and create a part by ear. I like to at least write it down, so if I ever forget something, God forbid, I can just go look at the chart and be like, oh, okay, that's what I played here, and I probably had a reason for playing that, so I'll continue to do that. It's cool that you can do that, because some musicians don't have that ability. I mean, you said you went to music school, so that I'm sure helps. I mean, but people are amazed to learn that a guy like Eddie Van Halen, as great of a guitar player as is, could not read a lick of music, but yet, look what that guy was able to do, Yeah, I mean, it works for some people, it doesn't work for others, and that's something that is a little different for me in this band. Actually, is the when we're we rehearse at Bruce's house, and when we're jamming along, it's very organic. Nothing is really written down, at least on their end. Yeah. And so it's a different take for me, because most bands I'm in use some sort of like music composition program, like Guitar Pro is a common one. So sometimes when the guitar player, most bands only rehearse like once a week. So if they come up with something, they'll put it on Guitar Pro and say, here's, this riff or whatever it is, these vocal lines, come up with something for it and let's have it by next rehearsal. Most bands just send over a recording, but sometimes with these other bands, it's been, here's like the sheet music for it, and it's on a MIDI file, so it sounds kind of robotic and goofy. But with Aeraco, it's different, where I've yet to really be in a band that does everything together in the studio or in the rehearsal space by ear, learning it as you go, figuring it out. Like, it's we're not going to leave this room until we have this section figured out, and I think that the result of that in True North's case is you have a really polished organic product, because with that you start with all of your ideas that you would naturally play or organically, I keep using that word, and then you sort of whittle away at them until you're left with only exactly what works. That's
kind of interesting, because when I was growing up, bands, that's the way bands used to do it. I mean, back in the day, I'm talking about when records made like in the 70s and 80s, they would be in the same room, the same studio, doing it all together. Of course, technology and everything's very different, and many times bands do it for financial reasons, because can't afford to go in a big fancy studio. Not everybody lives even in the same states anymore, or the same city, being in the same band. And a lot of times bands don't even see each other until they do go on tour,
Right. Well, and honestly, that's kind of been a dream of mine. Is I would love to make a living playing music, and I grew up watching all the documentaries of all those bands, like Metallica, Megadeth, and Yes, and all these bands that they released their record, and then poof, all of a sudden their life is write, record, tour.
Back in the day, you didn't even
what I want to do.
Back in the day,
unfortunately, with you're kind of breaking up.
I was saying back in the day, a band wouldn't even go on tour till they had their record released,
Right.
Yeah. And so, how does it feel being the new guy? I mean, you feel like the fans and the band have been pretty accepting towards you?
Well, I'm not entirely sure yet.
Okay.
I know the close friends of the band. We've played a sort of a short show for our guitar player's birthday party at his house. And so it was sort of like
a close family,
like an exclusive set, I guess, an exclusive show.
Yeah.
But they seem to be opening up to everything. They're certainly digging the new tune, as far as I can tell, via social media. I've had even friends of mine call me who, they're familiar with my other bands, and they're calling me saying that, oh man, this tune is like, I've never heard you play like that, and it sounds really good, and man, it's really awesome. Keep it up. Can't wait to hear more. So this is, and for me, it's weird. Everything is different, because they're, even though it sounds like it's a this more radio friendly hard rock song, but the way we're going about creating it is totally new for basically everybody in the band.
Wow.
Whereas they're having this new drummer who does different things differently than the previous drummer, or I have this new band that does things differently than other bands that I've been in. And
it's a learning experience.
Everything's just different.
And True North, I mean, when I hear True North, I typically think of I'm looking on a compass, but a great song, and you guys, I know, got a lyric video for that now. So when you guys typically go in the studio, you working on like one song at a time? I know that is the modern way of doing it, like, and releasing a single. Are you working towards a full-length CD?
Well, at the moment, we're just creating singles, but I think at some point in time, we're going to release numerous singles as part of an EP. I think that's kind of the goal.
Yeah.
Because we have two other songs that are almost ready to be tracked and recorded. And then I think throughout the course of this year, I think maybe those will be released. I'm kind of just speculating, because
there's no set schedule.
And then sometime next year, maybe another 3 or 4 songs that will be recorded as part of an EP project that includes True North and these other 2 songs.
But we only got 6 more months left of the year, but can you believe that? I mean, wow. But
yeah, right. Yeah, it's going to be 4th of July next week.
Yeah, and so as far as doing any live shows behind, to support this new track, when do you think you guys might get out there and start playing live?
Well, we have a show coming up. I'm not sure if it's been announced yet, but we do have a show in August. I'm not sure if there's a Facebook event for it yet.
Okay, well, we can look for that.
I don't know I don't know if I would give out all the details.
That's fine.
Yet.
Yeah, I'm just kind of asking in general. Like,
but definitely be on the lookout.
Okay, that's good to hear. And so, like, when you guys went in to record True North, like, you typically work on the track for a day. Does it take a couple days? I mean, or like you said, you kind of just you take do a lot of takes of the song, and then you kind of go with the best take.
Sort of. Well, that's how we did the drums.
Okay.
So I have all of my drums because I have a house and I rent a house, and that's where my drums are. So I own a lot of my own recording equipment, which I think may have been a selling point for me when I was auditioning. And so Bruce brought a portable recording setup to my house, and we tracked the drums. I think I recorded a song. I did 3 full takes. And I think we did we took the third take and then like a short 8 measure punch in for the last 8 measures of the song. So yeah, and I think one of the things that helped me record the song in such a way of just one long take as opposed to punching in and piecing things together was the fact that it was learned and rehearsed and written pretty organically. So it was pretty easy. I played the song all the way through so many times, and I thought, why don't I just record it all the way through so that way it gets the most natural feel rather than doing sections and punch-ins. And I feel like this will have the best overall feel. I wasn't there for all the guitar recording, but I know. I mean, I would assume it was a similar process, just because I was. Based on the way we were rehearsing and and writing it, we tend to rehearse or write in these larger sections and everything. And I was there for some of the the guitar solo, and I know Mike for certain parts. I would see him recording 32 measures at a time or something like that. So if it wasn't one long take or larger takes, there were certainly larger chunks.
So
I don't think it was a piecemeal recording.
No, so I guess what I'm asking, so like when you guys go in the studio and you're all there together, you typically work on one song at a time, or might you go in and do a recording session and maybe you get out 2 or 3 songs at a time? What's the process typically?
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, this is my first go around with the band, so we've only done the single so far.
Oh, okay.
But I think with Baptized by Fire, I think they did try to knock out multiple songs in a day if they could.
Yeah. Well, it's not always about it's not always about quantity, and what I mean by that is, there are some bands that go in and they track a whole album in a couple days, but maybe it doesn't sound as good. Taking your time and you really put out the best possible track you can. I think that's kind of what it's all about these days.
Yeah, and that's something I would definitely like to do. Is recording it and tracking a full length album would be awesome. I've only done EPs and demo CDs up to this point in my career so far. Like
a lot of bands these days, typically, maybe when you get enough, even 4 or 5 songs, you put out an EP, like you said, and people can check that. I'm an old school guy that I miss going to the record stores like we did back in the day, and people listening to this, what's a record? Vinyl. It's making a bit of a comeback, but I used to love to look at the artwork and hold it in my hand. I think that's a lost art form. And before I let you go, just a few more questions. I was curious. Know you're a new guy in the band, but do you ever know the story behind the band's name?
Mike told me before.
Okay.
I believe Aeraco is. I want to say he is a mythological figure. Okay,
I'll look that up. I always love to hear the story behind the band's name.
I want to say Greek, but I could be wrong.
Well, I got to
learn more of the band's history.
Well, I would be surprised because even just looking at kind of the artwork you guys have up for True North, it kind of looks like Greek god kind of type of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if that was in fact. And then I was going to ask you, as far as the guys that influenced you, who are some of your favorite drummers or even bands that you really were digging when you were coming up?
Well, I started off really liking just hard rock and heavy metal bands like Metallica, Megadeth, Trivium. You know, this was when I first started playing drums in 2007. So it was drummers like, you know, Lars Ulrich, Nick Menza, and Gar Samuelson from Megadeth, and Bill Ward, and like some of the quintessential hard rock and metal drummers. And eventually, I had gotten into progressive rock, so drummers like Bill Bruford, Alan White, Mike Portnoy, Terry Bozzio, Virgil Donati, some of the lesser known music. But I guess it's not even really lesser known, because Roundabout's on the radio 10 times a day, and that came out, you know, 40, 50 years ago. So I think, you know, some of that music still stands the test of time.
It's interesting you drop Nick Menza's name, because, you know, it's a very influential drummer. He's another guy that died tragically young, but if you know anything about that, I mean, the guy died literally like playing his final gig on stage, having a heart attack. So I mean,
I saw that.
You know,
I never got to see him live, but that was him passing, Neil Peart passing, just what was that, the beginning of last year, the year before. You know, I feel like a lot of time is passing by, and I've yet to really get to meet a lot of my drum heroes, but I hope to pretty soon. I've got to meet Terry Bozzio before, and he's an awesome drummer, awesome guy. You know, played with Frank Zappa and everything.
Steve Vai, Missing Persons, and just an amazing player. And you know, Nick Menza, I just gotta say, I don't know if you're aware, but supposedly they've been working on, and I think David Ellison, also who's a Megadeth bass player, they're working on a documentary about Nick's life, so that's something to look forward to.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that. Yeah, that's awesome.
And then Neil Peart, you know, it's interesting you mentioned a legendary drummer in his own right. I mean, Neil's another guy, kind of up until his death, he was still considered 40 years later of a new guy in Rush. But, you know, if you look at Neil Peart and Rush, I mean, he drastically kind of changed the sound of Rush in the sense that a lot of people may not even realize that it wasn't really Geddy Lee that wrote all those great Rush tunes. It was Neil Peart that wrote the lyrics.
Right, right. And I read a lot of lyrics for the prog band I'm in. So, I mean, if at some point in the future, you know, if I happen to have some lyrical ideas for Aeraco, I mean, maybe they'd be, maybe I don't get Ringoed and they just stick the lyrics on the fridge.
Yeah, you never know. Well, I'd like to thank you once again, Bryan, taking time to talk to us. And if you enjoyed doing the interview today, let's keep in touch and we can do it again. And I think I hit you up on Facebook, so we're friends now. And let's keep in touch that way. And if you'd ever like to, you know, do an interview, talk about any of the other bands that you mentioned, I'd be happy to do that. So just let me know.
Sure, sounds good. Thank you for having me.
And then this interview I'm going to be posting.
Chaotic Riff Magazine.